Okay, so we are live. Thank you very much and welcome to the Network Society Bangalore Meetup. And welcome to those who are already here as well as to those who will be coming. Sid, if you can help just having them sit as they come in maybe a little bit later, that's absolutely fine. My name is David Orban, and I will want this conversation today to be very open with the issues and the peculiarities of what you see around the themes that I will be talking about, specific to India and to Indian society. And we had these meetings in Milan, in London, in New York, in San Francisco, in Buenos Aires, and elsewhere. The last one was in New Delhi last Sunday, and the next one will be in Tokyo next Sunday. And what we talk about at these meetings are themes that I think are common to many of us. I'm on the faculty and advisor to the university, and for many years, I realized I was talking and thinking about the roots of socio-economic evolution. And that similar to university, we analyze and implement what we understand about exponential technological change. The best example of this is Moore's law, how our computers get better and better, coming from mainframes, a few thousand of them, workstations, now personal computers, hundreds of millions, mobile phones, billions of mobile phones. But things don't even stop there. The Internet of Things, autonomous devices, tens of billions or hundreds of billions of nodes is the next step. And so I was thinking how this phenomenon of exponential technological change actually impacts society at large. Because we have always been dreaming of emancipation and empowerment and social justice. But when you were a slave in Egypt, working on the pyramids, and after a day's work, you went to sleep and maybe you had a sliver of energy to keep thinking about what happened and keep thinking about tomorrow, you certainly realized that your situation was unjust. And there were brief moments of revolt, very rapidly suppressed in blood without any consequence. But you knew, even if you attempted one of these revolts, that you could not sustainably change your condition. And the reason why this wasn't at the time possible is because there was no technological basis to make that change happen. And what we now are able to achieve in our society, in a globally connected system that is getting more and more complex and is aiming and is ambitious to do even more, and it has the ability to compare best practices and to actually, through learning and understanding, share what is right and what is wrong in many, many fields. What we achieved is thanks to technology. Paul Crutzen, the Nobel Prize winning chemist, he found originally the ozone hole, and through his observations of how simple chemicals created by our industries for our refrigerators or deodorant sprays or whatever the chemicals were in could change the composition of the atmosphere at a point where we put a protective layer in danger. He realized that our species was very powerful and gave the name of the Anthropocene to the geological era defined by the presence of humans on planet Earth. Daniel Dennett, the philosopher, created this chart where he shows how 10,000 years ago, if you divided the biomass of terrestrial vertebrates, so let alone microbes, let alone ocean life, just look at what you see around you in the cities we have today and in the savannah back 10,000 years ago. 99% would have been wildlife, was actually wildlife, and only 1% were people. Today, if we put together humans with cattle and pets, dogs, cats, and so on, we make up exactly the opposite, 98% of this total. And everything you see on National Geographic is just 2%. It's perfectly demonstrated by the fact that I'm 10 days in India and I haven't seen a single elephant, not one. And I'm very, very offended by that. Now, this situation is evidently unsustainable. We cannot go on just doing what we are doing. But we are also not sure what we should be doing. I think that there is a point, or there are several points of certainty in this uncertainty, which complex systems necessarily exhibit. And that is that the only difference we have between us and the dinosaurs is that they didn't have telescopes. And both practically, using telescopes to watch out for asteroids that could hit us, and being able to actually realize that one could be coming, and hopefully in a future that is not too far, be able to do something about it. And also metaphorically, using the tools of science and reason to keep understanding the world. It is our duty as a species to not to deviate from the path that we started on when we invented the use of fire, when we invented agriculture, when we started off in this path we are on today. And there is no guarantee that we can keep going on it unless we choose to do so. The US Congress, for example, decided that it was not important to watch out for asteroids that might be hitting the Earth. And they cut NASA's budget. And the radio telescopes that were performing that task were turned off until Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, stepped in with his own personal money and put $300 million on the table to turn the radio telescope back on. We have to explore what are the possibilities and the variety of our languages, of our social structures, of our moral systems, of our entrepreneurial tests, the business models that startup culture breeds like rabbits, are all necessary to find what are the best solutions from an evolutionary point of view. What are the fittest ways of living in order to give opportunities of achieving happiness to the individuals, to the groups, to achieve the business goals of organizations, and so on. And each of these solutions have to be resilient in order to be able to resist pressure without breaking. Rigid solutions are apparently solid until they crumble under the pressure to which they cannot adapt. And the cages of this rigidity can be recognized in old type thinking that resists change, does not want to adapt, adopting new ways of organizing. For 500 years, centralized and hierarchical organizations have been extremely successful. The example is the nation state. Today, Antarctica is not a single place on the planet where you can stand without being under the jurisdiction of the nation state. And similarly to that, the organizations of economical enterprise, corporations, have also been very, very successful in being centralized and hierarchical, whether it is for building material objects or organizing information. And some of these corporations are now on par or actually are more powerful than entire nations. However, this is the starting of the thesis of the network society that I will explicitly read out in a little. In today's world that is globally interconnected, distributed and decentralized networks have the possibility of being faster to find better solutions and adopting those better solutions, adapting to the changing conditions than not the hierarchies. And for nothing else but for that, they can outperform the other way of doing things. And as such, they can be a better paradigm for creating social and economical organizations in the future. So, to summarize, widespread social and economic change only happens once a solid technological foundation evolves to make it sustainable. The slaves can do nothing, but once mechanization, for example, for picking cotton in the current territory of the United States becomes available, the southern states that want to keep slaves can do nothing about it because industrial mechanized cotton picking is just better, and they lose. And after losing the technological battle, they lose the military battle of the Civil War. And today, we have global technological solutions that are distributed and decentralized in many, many areas. And these technological solutions disrupt the nation state and its supporting pillars. And progressively, a new way of organizing human life is going to emerge, which I call the network society. So what are these pillars and what are these technologies? Very rapidly, just example after example. In energy production, rather than creating the funds and then engineering and implementing and building and ramping up the production of an oil or gas or nuclear plant that takes 10, 20, 30 years, and an ROI that you don't know for that long time, and the technological change that comes in the meantime, but you are locked in a given solution for a very long time. Solar energy is a decision that everybody and anybody can make individually. You can put solar panels on your roof. You can charge your mobile phone with solar panels if you want to spend less. Or, if you really believe in it, you can do like the smartest corporation on the planet as measured by market capitalization, Apple, that just announced an investment of $800 million in a solar farm that will generate enough electricity to power all their data centers and all their stores in California. In manufacturing, where you can say, okay, China is wonderful, China is great, I need 1 million of something, or 2 million or 10 million. I just send an order to China, and 6 months later I will have it. Of course. And then you start the advertising campaign, you stuff the shelves, you necessarily put on at least 3 times as much gizmos as you think you will be selling because you don't want the shelves to be empty when the advertising campaign hits. And then the cycle starts over next Christmas. Or the opposite with 3D printing, where you can produce on-demand products that are as complex as you can dream of in terms of creativity of your designers, and where this complexity is decoupled from the capital investment of the production plants themselves in a distributed fashion, where anybody can make designs available and anybody else can create the products globally. Food production, soil erosion, water shortages, excessive use of fertilizers, and many, many other issues are associated with the green revolution that starting in the 80s prevented the prophecy or the forecast of the Club of Rome coming true, that originally predicted that there would be widespread famines as our capacity of growing food could not keep up with the growing population. However, that doesn't mean that those forecasts were not grounded on the reality of the unsustainability of those practices. And as we deplete soil and as we use up all the water and as we consume all petroleum or natural sources of fertilizer or use excessive amount of energy to create them, we have to find alternative ways of feeding us ourselves. Hydroponics, urban gardening, vertical gardens, and what are called plant labs, even 3D printing of meat, are radical new solutions that are coming on stream to provide this alternative. Very interestingly, plant labs are self-enclosed LED lit programmable hydroponic growing factories that use 90% less water, 50% less energy, 99% less soil. They don't use pesticides because the environment is totally self-contained and controlled. But very importantly, they change agriculture from an activity that is proportional to the area occupied to one that is proportional to the volume. And it is totally conceivable to feed not 7, but 10, 20 billion people sustainably with a variety of production that depends only on the local preferences on the basis of a single building. Here we grow this, there we grow that, based on personal choices. Health, where our mobile phones allow us to monitor our state of health, to learn about how to be better at maintaining it without becoming ill, but also managing the process of becoming healthy again much better than not traditional ways. Learning, where online courses are cutting at the knees the traditional university system, based on the premise that in so many places today is false, that as long as you are doing what you are told for 4 years, semester after semester, study what is decided to be necessary by somebody 10 or 20 years ago, after graduating, you are guaranteed to get a good job. There are countries like the US where there's $1 trillion of student loans outstanding, demonstrating the fact that this is not true. Otherwise, those loans would have been paid off. And they cannot be paid off. And that is the reason why there is no legislation that you cannot even bankrupt them away. If a student dies, the loans are inherited by his parents. That is the value of a college degree in America that needs this kind of anti-protection because it cannot stand on its own. Finance is a technology that we like to finger point as the source of so many problems. But global trade, global commerce could not exist without financial technology also evolving. Electronic wire transfers, bank settlements, derivatives, loans, etc. depend on financial technology. And the latest generation of financial technologies are also pointing to distribution and decentralization. Bitcoin is the best example. Airbnb, Uber are building trust networks that do not compete respectively with the hotel industry or the taxi unions. They compete with the old concept of security through violence, rather than voluntary participation in networks of value, where non-compliance has a cost that is so high that people just understand that they better stay inside the system. Policymaking and the way we define democracy and the rules of democracy is the hardest to reform. And it is also the one that stays behind, most tragically, the curve of technology adoption, or even to understand whether to regulate and how to regulate technology. Each of these can be described as a fad, and often is. But when you look at them all together, you realize that they are unstoppable. So what we have to work on is to create a toolbox of methodologies, of instruments, of practices, of how to best align our strategies with the change that is coming. And the new organizations that we are going to be able to create as a consequence are going to radically empower billions of people who today are excluded from the system, and emancipate individual choice of participation to experience and experiment in order to learn what can be done, building inclusive and tolerant societies that offer dignity to strong communities made up by individuals that feel that they have a role to play, that they are not powerless, that they can decide their own future and those of their families and their children. The bureaucracies that are around us understand the danger. They are putting up resistance, often hiding behind the issues of consumer protection or other behaviors that are actually hiding their panic. And just like the immune system of the human body, where if you are allergic to nuts, your immune system will tell you, you want to have a nut? You know what, I'd rather kill you than let you have a nut. There is today all over a series of really fascinating phenomena, like on Hawaii, where it was prohibited to install photovoltaic solar plants because the utility company, and there was a law that required the plant to be connected with the utility company, could not take the peak power generated by the plants. Solution, no more solar power. Or personal genetics, where something that never was possible before, personalized medicine is now complete. I have my genes sequenced, and I can know, together with my doctor, what medicine should be dosed twice the normal amount, because my body otherwise would not benefit, or half the normal amount, because otherwise my body would be harmed based on my genes. But the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration of the United States, decided that the company behind these genetic tests should not make them available to consumers because we are too stupid. It would be dangerous. Just like 500 years ago, Martin Luther decided to translate the Bible, eliminating the intermediaries of the priesthood and created hundreds of years of war before this was acceptable and accepted. The New York Authority for Regulating Financial Services drafted legislation that attributes costs of compliance to Bitcoin startups that are higher than those attributed to banks, clearly measuring the danger, I would say the promise of Bitcoin as being higher than that of the banking industry that created hundreds of billions of dollars of damage in the 2008 financial crisis. So, since we know that this process is unstoppable, the genie that got out of the bottle cannot be put back. The technology is global, and if you prohibit it in one place, it will sprung up in another. And hopefully nobody believes that it is possible or desirable to implement a global dictatorship that can stamp out these technologies worldwide. Rather than panicking, it is better to adopt what is called the proactionary principle that takes into account not the false view of a balance of costs and benefits, dangers and advantages, because technology is not a zero-sum game. We are here demonstrating it rather than 10,000 or 100,000 years ago when there were just a few million humans. There are now several billion humans. This is a clear demonstration of the advantages of technology. But the proactionary principle is capable of taking into account the future benefit to uncountable generations that will be more rapidly taking advantage of what we create today for them. If we do that, the only question remaining is how will everybody be able, as long as they want to, participate in the process. So this is my part, and I am now going to actually turn off the projection and move closer to you and check on the broadcast that is still going on. It's signed. And sit down here. Okay. Oh, I forgot. Actually, I had a couple of slides. So I will just turn the computer around without reconnecting it, just to break the ice. Yesterday, I was sitting with the Times of India at breakfast. And so I took a couple of photos that I want to show you. Because these are the things that I think can start our conversation. You are absolutely welcome, of course, to ask questions or make remarks that are not concerning India. But since we are here, I think that it is interesting to try to project what we said locally. So I saw this. This is an Indian activist of ecology and sustainable practices. And she was prohibited from traveling because her views would dishonor India abroad. And a court actually decided that the government would not stop her from traveling, that her opinions were free. And if they were negative towards what is the status of the environment in India, it was not her problem for sure. And this other article, Knowledge for Common Benefit Drives Evolution, is from the Speaking Tree column in India, which describes a type of understanding of how really what we understand about the world enables us to create better societies is articulated very interestingly in ways that resemble what we are talking about here as well. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention on these slides is that our friends in Delhi, right after we finished our meeting, said, hey, there should be a Network Society Facebook group. And I said, well, yeah, absolutely, there should be. So there is one now. And you're all invited to participate. And of course, the question is, what is the difference of that group with respect of the global one, since both are in English? So I think that these two examples that I showed of the articles in the newspapers are good examples of how the Indian group can be different from the global one, discussing local issues. And I think there are many. So as you will be speaking, if you don't mind, I will just turn the camera around, and that way you are recorded on the stream as well. And maybe you want to say your name as you start speaking, and a little bit about what you do, and then make your remark or ask your question. Who wants to be the first? You want to go first? Go ahead. And you can speak to them or speak to us.
So hi everyone. I am Varun, and for the last 6 months I've been working on my own startup, and it's called Here Now, and it's something to do with all the connecting things you said. So we are trying to enable communication between people who are at the same location.
Okay.
So our hypothesis is basically that if you are at the same place, like all of us, we should be able to communicate even if we don't know each other's phone numbers or email IDs or whatever.
Yeah.
And because we have a phone, we have a GPS connection, that is possible with today's technology very easily. We are just trying to give it a phone.
Very good, very interesting. And at Network Society, we are, I don't know when, because it is a bit theoretical right now. The Ethiopian ambassador of Network Society is a former Google employee. He used to be living in the Netherlands, and now he's in Addis Ababa. And he's prototyping the Network Society, is going to enable things like that. It is also going to be that potentially powered by a token, which we are now cryptocurrency, but a distributed digital token that will accrue to those who contribute to the network with their observations, with their comments, with their vetted pieces of knowledge, and wonderful. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Siddharth Verma. I just helped David in organizing this meeting and the New Delhi's meeting of Network Society. I'm working in Tata Consultancy Services, and I have a bachelor's from India. 4 years I studied electronics and instrumentation, and previously to TCS I was working in IBM. So total I have 4 years of work experience, 1 year of experience in IT industry. And I'm really interested in all the developments happening in this field, like futurism and emerging technologies. Um, we have group India Future Society, so we have been conducting regular meetings. This community, futurist community, like we have a longevity day. We support that group supports the life extension. They have the belief that we can make people live longer than 80 or 90 average age. So we are conducting meetings and regular online meetings or for all around the world. Like we have a group, you can join the group to see what all the developments we have. So since 2013, we are working on that continuously, and I hope for continuous global collaboration in future. And yeah, it's good to have. It would have been better if there were more people full of full, but yeah, still good. Good
The best ones are here. And thank you. Siddhartha has been wonderful and very, very helpful in setting this meeting up. I have been speaking with somebody yesterday saying how magical it is that you can actually say, okay, Network Society Meetup City X, and then it happens. And, you know, just like Sid selected the venue and made sure that they had a projector and Wi-Fi, and then started spreading out the information. And he wasn't the only one. Many of you also helped spreading word. I think this is also a little bit of a proof of what I'm saying, of the power of the networks to create value and to bring people who are speaking, thinking similarly together. Yes.
I would like to add to that, just because you're talking about network. I'll give you an example of how I ended up.
Let me bring the computer close to you and also hand you over the microphone.
Right. I'll introduce myself first, and
Yes.
I'll add to the.
Yes.
So hi everyone, my name is Sajal. I just completed my postgraduate from IIT Bombay last year, and now I've started working at Xerox Research. And I just landed in Bangalore on Friday, so it's like only 2 days.
Oh, okay.
And you won't believe, just at 5 p.m., I was speaking to one of my friends who was in Bangalore before, and she was like, "You can." I was like, "I'm getting bored, so what should I do?" She said, "Check out the Meetup group." And I saw one group which was way below, and it was some Singularity University related to it and futures, and I was interested. So at 5 p.m. I check out. Okay, there's an event at 6. And I'm like, what should I do? And in 10 minutes, I decided, let's just go. and I ended up here.
That is meetup.com is really very
Right.
nice group.
So I first landed up at that place, White Elephant, and I was waiting for 15 minutes. It didn't work out. Then I checked the Facebook page, and there the location was changed.
Yes, because we switched the location.
Right.
Yes.
But it's fantastic. Like just at 10
Wonderful.
minutes, and I decided to. It's really good to see all the
It's
people.
really good to have you.
Wonderful.
And
Thank
I
you very
hope
much.
you will become a member of it.
Definitely.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
Hi everyone. My name is Ankur Pandey. I had background in data science and
Yes. It's fine.
yeah,
Go ahead.
since some time I've been working on a startup idea related to agriculture and precision agriculture specifically. So I am also interested since many years in everything related to futurism, transhumanism, and singularity, and all aspects of it. And pretty impressed by the talk, and so and moreover, I wanted to actually meet like-minded people, right? I mean, so it's finding things online is one thing, but there is still still a layer of this personal interaction which the web the satisfaction of which the web still do not provide. So that's what I sought, and that's why I sometimes organize these events and meetups. So I do have a lot of questions and comments also, but let's take a round of introductions and then we go to that.
Okay, very good. Yes. Go ahead.
I'm Shumanshro Roy. I'm a co-founder of a social enterprise called Learning, which is creating a game-based learning platform, which is designed to teach underprivileged children living in slums and villages in India and other developing countries. Also, we can distribute those games inside low-cost. I'm also an angel investor who invests in social impact startups. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Hi, I'm Rubia. I'm a media professional. About 3 years ago, I got involved with the United Nations International Day of Peace, and we started an interactive worldwide art project for children around the world to learn about each other's cultures as well as exchanging artworks with one another. That's called the Peace Crane Project. And one other thing that I'm dabbling in at the moment is a documentary about the sense of community that comes beyond borders, that comes from common interest. And it's very, very fascinating to see that communities no longer exist on a local level, but that far, far reach beyond that. So I'm using a particular case study of a British television show where people will travel and spend thousands of dollars in order just to connect with each other because they feel a sense of lack of community in their own lives. So it's fascinating to see that community exists and will continue to exist and becomes even more stronger as they're starting to disappear locally.
Okay, let's go over there. Yes.
Hi, this is Pankaj Yadav. I have been working with Intel Corporation and Dell R&D Center earlier. So I have founded, I have one startup called in agri e-commerce, farming e-commerce. So whatever during the one cycle of agriculture we needed, the farmer needed, I provide those all the things to the farmer. So in India, only 60% of the population are dependent on the agriculture, but everybody think about the urban culture, urban society. That either we are developing any technology or either we are providing any services. So because we are living, the people who are thinking about the other people, most of the person are living in the urban society. That's why they are thinking about the urban society only. But I have come up with the idea that okay, I should do something for the rest of the population for India. So I have started one organization ikisan.com. So Kisan is for a farmer. The Hindi meaning farmer, and I for intelligent. So intelligent farmer is for that. So apart from that, I am working in R&D. I am doing some R&D related to IoT, that how can influence my society through IoT. And
Very good.
okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Zubin. I work in finance. So I do have a question for the Network Society and many of the things which David has mentioned. Particularly considering the fact that you said a number of times about justice, but also about democracy and people making their own choices and being empowered to do so. So my question really is that if people make a choice which is against the network society, right? If their opinion or their desire is for greater security or greater certainty in the face of a changing world, as opposed to embracing the network society, then what's the next step from there? How does it work with the people who democratically reject the principles of a decentralized or distributed society? So that's what I would like.
And I will answer it after we are done with the round of introductions. I think this is the last one. Is there anybody missing? Maybe after Jacopo. Of course.
Hello, I'm Pratiksha. I'm basically a software engineer, and I quit my job around 5 months ago, and I was traveling for a while. Now I'm planning to start something on my own. Haven't zeroed in on it, but hopefully I will soon.
Wonderful. This is a moment of exploration for
Right,
you.
right.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, let's have Jacopo also introduce himself. Okay.
I had to get out of the gear. I stream. I be the cameraman for the
Many meetings.
non-stream. Yeah, many meetings. Yes, and being his cameraman, I've been listening to this network society things a lot, and now it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we can. Before I start answering your question and asking other questions, why don't you guys order to drink? I am thirsty, and I want more of this. But let's see.
Yeah, we have the menu.
Yes.
To order.
And no, you guys are not thirsty. Oh, how many of these? 1, 2,
So
3.
no, I would have a different.
Do you have something hot?
You? No. No? Okay, so let's have 5. 5 of these.
5 people.
Yes.
And the food menu is
बॉस और कौन सा बियर है
6 of these.
यही बियर है और कोई नहीं अच्छा सो एक टू और ग्रीन टू और but which one I don't want it
Okay.
I don't like it no, nothing in me
Sprite, please. One Sprite. Nice.
Okay.
Interesting statistics you include in the talk site. I mean, it came to my mind, but I didn't want to disturb you. Basically, so I found this really interesting when I heard it. The time since the dinosaurs is lesser than the time the dinosaurs existed.
Uh-huh.
Like 3 times, by 3 times.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's like
Well,
mind-blowing to think.
Change is very interesting to study by itself. At Singularity University, we do that a lot, right? And especially exponential change has a nature that is difficult to grasp, right? It starts slowly, and everybody ignores it, except those who very much believe, sometimes unreasonably so, or apparently unreasonably so, in an extremely weak signal that hides behind a lot of noise. And experts concentrate on the known patterns rather than embracing the new pattern. And this has been true in biology as well. If we were bacteria, after 1 billion years that life formed on the planet, we would have been so proud and so sure that we were at the top, at the pinnacle of the evolution. And we would have been perfectly right. Not only that, but we would have had another 1 billion years to prove us right. And then suddenly, the Cambrian explosion, multicellular life, would have completely caught us by surprise. And bacteria are still very important. Without bacteria, we couldn't live. But the interesting things happen elsewhere. You know, society is in some ways this like this as well, and technology. I am definitely extremely involved with issues of artificial intelligence and transhumanism, but actually the network society on purpose is not about those technologies or about those opportunities philosophically or ethically, because what it teaches or what it studies is applicable today. It is applicable in policy, in economic enterprise right away, without waiting for the future developments. So to answer your question, and I will just repeat it so that I'm sure I understood it correctly. Your question was, in a democratic society, if it were the case that for some reason, maybe because they are in search of security, a group of people would reject network society practices or policies, what would happen? So, just as when I was talking about Egyptian slaves, I think that the point is that the change cannot happen if it is not sustainable, not only technologically, but also from the point of view of policy. So you cannot force change on people. And if there are people who say, no, we don't want divorce, for example, in Ireland, divorce was illegal for a long time, very, very long time, up to very recently. Or in the United States, a black person and a white person could not marry until 1996, almost 1966. Only 1967 that interracial marriage became legal. And now people, I hope, don't even think about that not being legal, but it was definitely the case. And there are things today that are illegal in most places, but they are starting to become legal. For example, recreational use of marijuana is supported by more than 50% of the population in all of the 50 states of the United States, all of the states, but only 6 of them allow it. So is it likely that a politician is going to be strongly against recreational use of marijuana in the next election cycle? Not very probable. So the rhetoric and all the speeches that very heavily condemned it before are going to be now either slightly or decidedly in favor. Just to extend to your point, the reason why it is so fundamentally important to curb the capacity of the state to monitor in an unfettered manner private communications among individuals is because each of these changes that I described and many others, you know, something as simple as drinking beer was illegal during Prohibition. Each of these things, before being legal, they were illegal. And if there was a group that, for example, wanted to make interracial marriage legal in 66 or 65, meant like us, but they could be monitored and there could be recorded that they were talking about this, that would be subversive. That would be itself illegal or even criminal. And the people would be at least ostracized, but maybe even imprisoned. And we are now today living in a society that makes this kind of very, very precise monitoring possible, which stops social evolution. Nothing that is illegal today but desired by many people can happen if those that conspire to make it legal are monitored and stopped. And that is a corollary to your question that I think is worth.
One extreme angle of this kind of view, right? I mean, majoritarian view is that, you know, for example, there might be some special cases of like ideas, some special type of idea which are not actually yet supported by a majority, and due to highly connected word, it's possible to curb them at the outset, right? So what do we do about them? So for example, let me tell you where am I coming from. So I'm almost a vegan and a big proponent of it, and I believe that, you know, like a lot of well-meaning people don't take it as seriously as they should, right? But I mean, I basically end up being a laughing stock. I mean, I do have a serious point of views about like why I ended to do, nothing to do with religion or spirituality at all, right? So, but the problem is that, you know, for example, in a highly connected world, ideas spread fast, which means that bad ideas spread also, pretty fast, right? So there's no, ample time to actually, surface that view. So how do we, for example, the point I'm trying to make one is that it is possible that majorities may not be right, and there is no perceivable way in which it could be right in any near future. And second, that in a hyper-connected world, the chances of it surfacing actually diminishes now. So,
of what surfacing?
So, for example, I just talked about like some certain ideas which are not that prevalent.
Okay.
But for example, so suppose there is a great music, right? By an Indian classical singer, so which is basically being spread virally. But at the same time, the crass songs are also being spread virally and actually by exponentially higher speed. So the ideas of the music which is going to be spread is that particular music, right? So what do we do about this?
So there are several things that are implied in what you said. First is the winner takes all assumption, where in exponential phenomena. Thank you for coming. Wonderful. It is really great. I will want some food. Where's the alcohol? Yeah. I don't want. Okay. Thank you. So, in an exponential phenomenon, the initial advantage amplifies, right? And that is the basis of the belief that the first comer will have a great advantage. However, Google was not the first search engine. Facebook was not the first social network. There are uncountable examples that are contrary to this assumption. Because in the network, the selective advantage of a better solution cumulates. Okay? Now, the bad songs that you mentioned, the pop songs, I don't know, Gangnam Style.
So, for example, sorry to interrupt here, but about Gangnam Style, there was this article I read that how many hours of human society has been wasted watching that song, right? I mean, it was like probably some millions or billions of hours, which could have been just probably a humanist point, but I'm just trying to...
Yeah, so, Gangnam Style is... it is possible to position it and define it as bad from many points of view on many scales. However, from a memetic point of view, from the evolution of ideas point of view, it is extremely well adapted, as demonstrated by the fact that it was able to spread widely, okay? And we do not yet have a science of memetics. And it is going to be, you know, some time before we achieve that goal, even if we do start to have an engineering of memetics, you know, whether it is spam email writers that are trying to get through spam filters, or whether it is pop songwriters or Facebook post writers that try to game the Facebook ranking algorithms or SEO experts. These are memetic engineers.
So basically, I think the argument is that we assume that because of the connected world, the rate of evolution of ideas will increase.
Yes.
But at least in some cases, it might be the opposite, that because of the hyperconnectedness, the very divergent
evolves.
So, I mean,
the divergent ideas don't get the...
So, for example, ISIS, for example, has been recruiting from, Western world, right? I mean, the Facebook pages and Twitter and whatnot, right? So, it had not been popular just few years back.
ISIS is a perfect example.
Which is a demo. So, Gangnam Style, you can argue that some people it might be a subjective, qualification that if it is a bad or good thing. But for example, let's assume that everybody here at least agrees that ISIS is is bad categorically. So then, I mean, of course, we should worry that how do they have been, empowered enough to circulate and.
Yeah. So ISIS is I think a fantastic example of how modern tools that are based on the network can have uses that most of the people are horrified by. At the same time, ISIS is not a child, in my view, of the network. ISIS is a child of American militarism and American money. Their arms are not Chinese or Indian. Their arms are American, maybe some Russian. Yes, it is possible to 3D print guns, as some panicky senators in the US realized, and they wanted to immediately regulate the 3D printing industry because it should not be possible. But ISIS still gets its money and its arms in a very, very traditional fashion. I don't pretend to have perfect answers to everything, of course. Please.
So the way ISIS is using network in a bad way, nobody is using the network in a good way to come up with a solution for ISIS.
Oh yes.
Maybe they're traditionally trying to solve the ISIS problem. Maybe
Yes.
that's a problem.
Yes. So they are smart in the use of their own goals, and we don't like their goals, but they still use them very well. In Buenos Aires, we did an exercise that maybe I would like you to do as well, and I will take note, and without attributing it to each of you or any of you individually, I will publish the results of this exercise. And the exercise is very simple. For each of the 8 pillars, energy, food, health, manufacturing in the middle, health, learning, finance, security, and policy, we will ask the question: if we assume that these technologies that I exemplified and others that are changing the way that things are done in these fields are happening, without judging whether they are positive or negative, they are happening. Photovoltaics. If your family money is in oil, you will hate photovoltaics, but it is still happening. So since they are happening, the question is India neutral around them, or it is fostering or promoting them, or on the other side, it is trying to hinder or to stop them from taking hold, okay? And numerically, very simply, this is from -2, -1, 0, +1, +2. For each of these 8 pillars, creates what I call the Network Society Readiness Index for a given country. And I am planning, for the moment, very unscientifically, and then hopefully ever more robustly, to collect supporting documentation, anecdotal or policy documents that will lead to mapping the various countries and also mapping enterprises on this readiness, so that each country and policymaker or city can say, okay, I actually think that it would be good for my country or my city to be ready, and what can I do to better align my strategies, my policies with this? And then we will publish this ranking, and we are planning the first Network Society World Congress, and it's on September 15 in Milan. You're all welcome and invited, and there we will announce and illustrate and discuss the results of this ranking. Okay?
When you say whether India is ready or on a scale of -2 to +2, you mean we're talking the Indian government, or we're talking of Indian citizens, or which?
Yeah, and so whether citizens or government, and whether central government or local government, that can be also very different, right? So as far as the index is concerned, what I will write down is concerning the Indian government, so government policy, government policy, whether government policy is for or against some of these things, right? But then I will also be interested to ask you, what is the zeitgeist? What is the feeling of the people? You know, for example, when I was in Buenos Aires and we were talking about this, people were saying, "Oh, solar is nowhere here." On the 16th floor of a skyscraper in the middle of Buenos Aires, it's a beautiful windows. It is a new office of a local investor, and so I walked to the window. I looked out, and on the roofs, I called them over and I said, "Look, that is a solar panel. That is a solar panel. That is a solar panel. Your perception that Argentina or Buenos Aires doesn't think about solar is wrong, as demonstrated by just looking at the roofs." So should we start?
Sorry,
Okay.
one more question.
Yes, go
When you
ahead.
say that we look at the government and government policies, is it in terms of its intentions or is it in terms of its actual consequences? Because the intentions don't often match consequences, especially when it comes to government policy.
Perception. Well, policy has intended consequences, and policy before being implemented is intention. As it is discussed and then turns into legislation, then it is concrete. And as that legislation is funded or creates incentives, for example, Germany is very famous for having created extremely strong incentives for the adoption of renewables. So much so that it distorted the global market for solar. So I would say that the policy, when and as it gets implemented into legislation, can be objectively collected. So we can think about it later. I would be more interested in understanding your perception about the intentions. Yes. So let's start with energy. Where do you think the Indian government stands as far as its intentions are concerned on solar or renewables in general, distributed energy production?
So are we taking it around?
Just shout it out, fostering, hindering. Yeah, I will collect. I will have a rough consensus. Fostering.
So it's positive, I would say.
Yes.
I don't know if it's like supremely positive, but yeah, I mean, at least positive.
Okay.
One maybe.
Yes.
Say plus one as well.
Yes, +1. Okay. Hello, welcome. No problem.
Roommate is my PG.
Ah, okay. Very good.
He's working in a defense research development organization, like Indian defense.
Oh, okay. Indian defense.
Yeah, actually, I am
Very
working on a project of ResNet, airborne early warning and control system. And this will be implemented within 1 year. It will be that's of Indian Air Force. The whole project has to be submitted to the Indian Air Force.
Okay.
In 1 year.
Don't say too much.
No, actually. So basically, I am concerned regarding this total phenomenon, whatever is going on. And for the solar energy, whatever I think, if government can implement this thing, it will be beneficial for everyone. But due to some corruption level of thing, they are thinking that if I can put some electrical energy from warehouse or something like that, then it will be much beneficial. They can pocket their money into that. But I have heard many of the cities, if you give some, if you implemented solar energy in your house, government will going to give some concessions, like subsidy they are going to give. But I don't think that in real they are going to give that.
Hello, would you like to say who you are?
Yes, my name is Rup Kamal, and I'm working for a mortgage solution company. I'm basically a software engineer. And yes, if we say about the renewable energies, nowadays we are thinking about this, and it is definitely positive. And of course, much more awareness is required for this. So that's it.
Okay, so we shut it out. I think there is a rough consensus. Nobody said -2.
I
And
would
everybody else said
I would say half.
one
I would say
half.
No, not half, just half. Not even one and a half.
No, I see. Yeah, half. Okay, 0.5. Well, that's fine. And for the moment, I am using just 4 numbers. Five,
Zero.
actually. 5 numbers. Yeah.
So
5
is the
numbers.
consensus like +1, is it?
That's what it sounds like. So, manufacturing. Okay. For example, in Bergamo, near Milan, where I live, there is a smelter where they do especially steel tubes. They are a world leader in steel tube for gas pipelines and other things. And 20 or 30 years ago, they would do a given volume of steel tubing a year with I don't remember the exact number, something like 20,000 people. Today, they are doing 3 times as much, 2,000 people. And this is not due to distributed manufacturing, but it is still, I think, a very interesting example of technological evolution, increasing production capacity, reducing impact, and creating a society that is less energy intensive as well. There are many other examples of digitization and dematerialization of society, from our music players to our ebooks to many processes that were more coarse and more intensive before and now are more sophisticated. The example I gave is, of course, a little bit of frontier, 3D printing. Even if not all of you might realize that 3D printing is not just for prototyping. 3D printing is for heavy-duty industrial production as well. Boeing recently said that the latest Boeing 777 airplane, I think that is the one they were referring to, not the 787, which is the even more advanced one, has 20,000 parts in each airplane that are 3D printed. 20,000 parts on the airplanes that are 3D printed. So,
3D printed as in like, you mean like
they are not machined, they are not carved, they are built.
I'm asking that they are 3D printed at the prototyping end, or at the like?
No. They are in the airplane. They are in the airplane.
Oh, but okay. So all I want to ask was that, for example, if there are components, isn't it true that 3D printers initially use a prototyping, and then if a prototyping works, then they are kind of, then
I understand.
there is a automation.
I understand. No, these are parts that are printed and then put in a plane. Printed and then put in a plane. One at a time. Yeah. So, and all around the world, maybe this is the way to put it. 3D printing is just one component of the maker movement. Okay, where hacker spaces and maker spaces allow people to rapidly acquire understanding and knowledge of how to put together electronics and hardware and all kinds of different technologies, share knowledge with people, and go to create something new. So is this something that is recognized by Indian government that is happening all around the world? And is this something that is reflected in its intentions to be either hindered or fostered? or they just don't know anything about it, so it's zero.
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 I would say it's +2 because there are a lot of startups. I know about like at least 50 to 20 startups in India who have raised good money and they have presented in Germany and other places. They developed their own startup and they got good response from the government and the student community. And I think the government is also taking. I mean, when this will be successful, I think the government. I think they already have that in mind. It has not been implemented in large scale, but there are a lot of startups in India who are doing creativity. So
Okay, but one is the individual initiative. One is so I gave a lecture at IIT last week. At the beginning of this week at IIT Delhi, and so we were talking, and I asked them, hey. How many 3D printers there are at IIT? And they said, yeah, maybe we have one. And have you used it? No. And so I think that is an illustration of a lack of not realizing that this possibility is there.
My point is that so manufacturing industry is lacked so much in India so far that I mean, like even if you, for example, there had been proclamation like I don't know if you know about Make in India, and there are some buzzwords going around, which basically purports to make us believe as if there has been huge incentives in steering this movement. But actually, if you look at the real, for example, subsidies given and things like that, none at all. So this has been so far as a buzzword. I mean, we keep hearing since at least this new government has come up, the new central. But I mean, for those who have actually took time to actually look into the statistics, I don't think there has been significant change in policies related to that. So I do agree with I mean, I also know a lot of hardware startups and prototyping and things. But then I don't know if that actually answer the question you are asking. Yeah, actually, so corporate is not that. So manufacturing industry in India has been so abysmal that we would need a lot more data points and time to actually say anything substantial about it. Okay. So I would say like slightly positive, but round off is zero.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And incredibly important everywhere in the world, but especially in a populous country as India, food.
I'm sorry, I just
yes.
want to continue with the planning. I see a lot of negativity, but let me tell you, I was last week at Bangalore where I was
the goal.
Just to give an example, one of my academic projects was selected as part of Festival of Innovation. And if you know about Professor Anil from Maya, right? So he was the one who was organizing it, and he called upon around 70 innovations which were going around in India. And they specially did this just to get trust that we really care about innovations. And we had secretaries coming from biotechnology, Iraq, and KT, like IT and electronics, and every one of them said that we want to do and we have a lot of funds. And there were 2 more delegates coming from US saying that we have into US funds. So we have a lot of funds, but we need people who can carry this forward. And on their side, they were saying that we have a lot of funds that we want to give into, but there are not enough people who would continue to go to take their innovations ahead. So on their side, they were saying that they didn't find enough innovators who would take their innovations ahead. But let me tell you, I had seen a really good positive light.
That is contestable. Yeah, but no, I agree that there has been significant, surge at least since the last government has come.
I agree. So let me. So there was this K. Vijay Raghavan who was part of DVP.
Yeah, I know.
Right. So he said that he clearly said that the government policy sucks. He said that we really need to change it, and he totally agreed upon that. So
no, but for example, so statistics would be like this. For example, how much funds are available for hardware startups? How the likelihood of a hardware startups to be funded. So that has not been improved. I mean, so far, right? Maybe it might, right, in near future, hopefully. So then we might change our metric.
The question is not about innovation. It's not that there are not innovative people here. This question versus public versus private sector. Private sector, you see it. Public sector, which is what the question is about, is non-existent. Because if you, I mean, I know lots of people in manufacturing, they have to do things by rules that are still 50 years old.
Exactly.
Right? So they don't. So the answer is zero.
And that is the point. I mean, I know very little about India, of course, so apologies in advance. But it seems to me that there are a lot of rules in the book that don't seem to be geared towards helping individual initiative to flourish. They are thought to maintain power, to funnel resources in specific directions, and to potentially suffocate those that want to do things differently. So that is why individual enterprise and initiative that goes against the grain of those policies is so hard, and thinking about policies is important.
One lateral point I would like to make about manufacturing is, for example, I mean, I had a deep stint at a public policy recently in Bangalore. So what I realized was this. So, for example, one thing which is overlooked is that the problem with the manufacturing industry in India is also the problem with the railways, basically. You know, like the freight portion of railway. So anything, any public policy, government policy which attempts to improve that has to improve this also. And there has been the recent railway budget, Indian railway budget, had shown some signs of improvement, but it is so new that any, you know, if you claim to make any, if we claim to hit the rating overnight, due to that, it will be pretty, you know, like that we should probably need more time to,
yes,
for example, you know, refine our rating. So
and it is an overused example, but I think it is still an extremely useful example. There are technologies and solutions that can have a rapid adoption, extremely varied, incredibly creative consequences, and they still need some coordination and some regulation in order to happen. And the example is mobile phones, where India, I mean, everybody has mobile phones in India. I was at I don't remember the name of the market. Some of you have seen the photos that I've been posting. I've been at one of the city markets with sellers of everything and anything, and it didn't matter where they were. No, I'm talking about here in Bangalore. So it doesn't matter whether they were well off or they were poor. They were all with their phones, all of them. And if I'm not mistaken, the deployment of mobile networks were not without hiccups. Of the auctions for allocating frequencies, especially in the 2G generation, there were some issues. So whether it goes well or not well matters. Whether policy is well designed and well managed and transparent and accountable matters. Also because then 3G and 4G and whatever else comes can either repeat the problems or the problems can be avoided. So let's move to food. Is there a perception that water, soil, climate change, use of fertilizers or pesticides, that these issues are pretty important? And does the government see a role in driving policy around?
In some of the states it's good and some of the states it's not that good.
Okay, and I will ask about the role of states versus the central government, because that is also interesting. So for now, I heard -2. Why? Can you tell me why you think it's -2?
My parents are actually trying to do some organic farming, and they want to do it because they know the harmful effects of pesticides and fertilizers, how they harm soil and actually reduce the nitrogen content or any nutrition in the plants. So, but they found out when they're doing this that the villagers around them they continue to use a lot of fertilizer and pesticides, and they're told by the agriculture university to use it in this proportion. Agriculture university does not educate these farmers and tell them, why it's important. I don't know whether the fertilizer companies pay the agriculture university to tell the farmers this, but they continue to do it, and they get good yield. And because of good yield, because of the fertilizer, they sell sub-quality vegetables, and they're fine with it. They don't care about.
But was the question about organic farming per se, or
no, basically.
No.
I mean, I'm just asking.
No. I mean, she articulated it based on her experience. My question is always geared about distributed and decentralized practices, right? The agribusiness, industrial agriculture, is typically practiced on larger plots through automation, but also through industrialization, homogenization, where, for example, a single hybrid is dominating the food availability, and if that is attacked by a pest, it can be an extreme big component of the food intake of an entire population.
So I would also rate it. I mean, I don't think there is a lot of industrialization, specifically since I've been trying to set up this agri-tech startup.
Yes.
So I don't think that there has been huge lag. But I would also like to say that not just in farming, but for example, the statistics is 66% of the grains are wasted in distribution. Yeah, 66%, right? So I mean, it's not just about the production aspect of farming. Yeah, but also in other aspects.
It's an entire system that has to work together.
So that's also. But if you talk about innovation in farming, so I would also rate it pretty low.
Okay.
From my limited experience, let's use cotton as an example. There's been a huge amount since the 1940s proven corporatism from the Indian government with large corporations to disrupt the chain of cotton supply in India. So if you use something like cotton, is huge amounts of cotton around the world comes from India, and the way that the farming has been put into policy is very corrupt. So the farmers have to choose a particular type of seed, they have to go through a certain way, which is all from big business. There's huge amounts of documentaries. I worked on a documentary based on this recently, which is where I know this. So one thing I would say -2 right now. But if you have a look at some of the large startups that are in agriculture being pinpointed as one of the largest growth areas of any industry in India, I think in the future it might change very rapidly.
Yeah.
Because it kind of needs to. Because a huge amount of food product is still being imported that should not be, right? And the government are on top of these sort of things. So if you talk to a couple, it's a little bit of a murky area right now. So right now I'd agree with you based on what my limited experiences, that it is -2, but it's possible it will change soon.
Is there any public conversation about and around climate change? How climate change could severely impact the monsoon season?
I would say, I mean, again, I'm sorry to, this is my opinion, but people actually are more or less sympathetic toward the idea, but then there is always a tendency of, like for example, passing the bucket to the Western counterparts, like as if, for example, they have, disturbed the environment and so on for so long, right? So it's our turn to be prosperous now, so why us, right? So this is, I mean, I can point to, for example, a member of parliament named Sachin Pilot, who is a Harvard graduate. For example, this is the precise statement I'm kind of paraphrasing he gave, right? I mean, so he said that something like climate change cannot be a part of like a larger narrative in India because we probably are not that at that stage. If you see, for example, our carbon footprints, there's nothing compared to our Western counterparts. So, which actually is not really a rational argument per se, but then a lot of people actually buy that. So I would say that. So that's the kind, yeah.
And I think these are extremely interesting examples of memetic engineering, where in the West too, in America especially, climate change is an extremely polarizing topic, politically and in terms of policy.
I don't feel it's a polarizing topic. I don't think that a lot of people say it doesn't exist versus like there is like probably in traditional America. Yeah, but then people do agree at large. This is my perception. It probably does exist, but we should not be held responsible at an equal level, at an equal footing as our say Western counterparts. So,
and my view there is that we could be lucky in the sense that we can postpone thinking too hard and we are lazy and we just do things we are used to, and then little by little the new technologies are just plain so much better, more convenient, and even easier to use, and we start adopting them, right? And so almost magically the solution appears. The problem with existential threats is that if you're wrong, it's too bad, there is no alternative, you are dead. So that is what puts climate change in a different category from others. Okay, let's move to health. Here, once again, I don't want to concentrate on whether healthcare is good or bad in India. But is there a perception in terms of government policy that new technologies can empower the individual to make healthcare easier to manage? In the West, for example, overweight and diabetes as a consequence is a growing problem. It's already a very big problem, and it is a growing problem. In India, probably less so. But there are other behavioral components to health that are that can be highlighted, can be managed. Is there any understanding that is a good thing or not a good thing? Or
the question is about whether the government is promoting technologies for personal improvement of health.
Yes.
Things like personal trackers for fitness.
That is a concrete example, but there can be, and I have an example of a very basic. Let me actually give you that example. A friend of mine has been working for long on something called health phone. If you go to healthphone.org, you will see he collected an incredible amount of videos related to basic health practices geared towards Indian women. Washing your hands, breastfeeding the child, rehydrating the child that had diarrhea, really basic health information. And on April 11th, there will be a new campaign with the help of the Indian Association of Pediatrics and that will reach 150 million people all over India and allow them to watch 4 videos with no charge for data. It has been 0 rated. And if they watch these 4 videos, actually they get a 10 rupee incentive. And this is an extremely interesting experiment in spreading health knowledge in the population. So it is done in collaboration with UNICEF, Indian Association of Pediatrics, and Vodafone. And it is Vodafone from their corporate social responsibility budget that is putting in the money. So this is an example.
I would say, again, -2.
Okay.
Lesser than that if it is possible.
No, -2 is
When
enough.
you say -2, you mean the government is actually going out of its way to hurting these technologies?
No, not like that.
That would be that's the -2. Right?
That's right.
In your
That
case.
is what it would be.
Zero. So in that sense, everything will be zero, right?
In many cases, yeah. It's accepted as everything. Depending on how you define scale.
So
If the government is going out of its way to prevent certain technologies they introduce, then you can probably make a -1.
or you can also interpret it in the sense that the opportunity cost in the sense, like, for example, what it could have done, it has not done. So in that sense, it could be negative, right? I mean,
yeah, so that depends on how you define scale.
yeah. So I mean, I would say that government should have done, but it did not. For example, so healthcare problem in India actually relate to sanitation issues at large. It's not just, I mean, forget about a hospital. I mean, for example, there has been a recent study, pretty interesting, which actually found out that why Muslim kids die lesser. This is about rural and some kids lesser than Hindu kids, because or other religions, because Muslim women, and because they basically avoid, due to a lot of religious observations, going to open areas for basically toilet. So this, I mean, so we are at that stage now.
But the government has given 15,000 for every household.
So again, like, I mean, this is government has done everything. Basically.
Corruption
There's
undermines everything.
no particular one area you can point out where the government has no plan at all.
There may be cuts, but it's not guaranteed that you will receive those.
Yeah,
No,
of course.
you do, because in our villages people build those to get this
So,
fund.
well, you live in Karnataka, I live in UP, so, which basically, I mean, so, for example, you might have heard about this Jandan, so where the accounts are being built, right? I mean, for the Prime Minister's, not Aadhaar card, I mean, where basically everybody has supposed to have a bank account. The whole idea of this account, the Jandan, right? The money, the incentives which go, so it's like basically, because the statistics so far was 79% of the fund goes away, like in corruption. 79% of the statistics. So now it should at least improve. So I mean, I would say that, I mean, yeah, I mean, if we are interpreting any problem like as if government has a policy for that, every problem has a policy. I'm sure it exists. So, but then we should also say that efficiency of those policy implementations, or the opportunity cost and so on. So yeah, I would say
okay. You were saying +1. What is your example of +1?
Point is, the result with polio has been pretty good. So last year, it was polio has been
eradicated.
That's a positive point. On the other hand, I am aware about projects which are going on private and public companies. For example, Tata is adopted few villages around in Maharashtra, where they take care of maternal health. So when the woman gets pregnant to the point the child is 2 years old, they're taking care of the whole thing, and this is done in collaboration with Tata, and you have another big hospital in Mumbai plus the government. I see a lot of public. And recently, the event I talked about, it was the one happening last week, the one that was on innovations in medical health and medical research, and they were also trying to promote this. They were promoting some public services and also innovation in medical research. That was pretty. I'm optimistic about it. And I would say for most of the things about Indian policies are there, efficiency is not there, like action is not there.
And also, like versus US, what happens in US? There's funds available for sanitary napkin disposal in the south of India as well. There's lots of government funds available for trying to find a way of using technology and
It's a variety of things. In that area, it's very competitive right now because there are lots of government funds being given out in order to try and find this solution. So I think it depends what area of healthcare.
What's the percentage?
I would say +1 as well.
Okay, so tentatively I'm putting +1. Okay, and to respond to your question, of course, opportunity cost is a huge issue, but is a second order consequence of the index itself. So, okay. In about 15 minutes, I will stop the stream that we scheduled for a couple of hours. We are now in learning. So, what are the government policy intentions in leveraging distributed and decentralized technologies for enhancing learning? For example, through online learning, where anybody could learn from the best teachers in the world, and the local teachers' role would be to complement and supplement the lecture materials with exercises and with personalized assistance to the student in following the material and with fulfilling the potential of the student. Is this something that is understood in government policy at all? +1, +2.
Because we would have because it's there are this learning initiative. Everybody, lot of people are aware. Like you went to IIT Delhi. If you would have asked the students from IIT Delhi what is the learning initiative, I think they would rate it +3 because there are like they know all the IIT students, all the BTech students. Everybody will know about the like NPTEL. NPTEL is a like lecture Coursera. This is Coursera. Then edX. Then we have MIT Open Courseware. So NPTEL is like that, and it's very distributed on a very large scale. So if you want to gain knowledge, you just go to the internet and
So that is the only program I would find is probably in favor of this. But if you go to IIT Delhi, the students don't have Wi-Fi in the hostels. In the hostels, they don't have Wi-Fi. They have, and that is IIT Delhi. Imagine the other colleges.
Actually, a lot of the colleges have much better Wi-Fi.
Private, definitely. I think they have some limit of like 500.
He said that you thought differently.
No, I'm saying
I was trying to sell them,
get them,
get my
most
apps
of these
uploaded.
technology improvements
And they said, "Ki, sir, kya
that have
kare?"
taken place, at least in my experience, has been in higher education, not necessarily in primary education. For primary education, the government has tried to do some stuff in terms of introducing technology in government-run schools, etc. Plus also things like distributing low-cost tablets and stuff like that. So again, in terms of intentions, not taking consequences at this point. But so intentions, I'd probably rate +1. Okay. Yeah.
I have to say something. My friend is actually volunteered to Odisha and teach rural kids English, and she's found that the basic education system is very lacking. So you don't even have basic education system, right? Across India, maybe in urban India.
I think it's better not consequences but intentions.
Yeah.
If it's the consequences, everything -2.
Yes.
If it was consequences, everything -2. The question is not consequences, it's intention.
Okay. Finance. So we mentioned the issue of the bank account of everybody. It is very interesting. The European Central Bank issued a report on Bitcoin. I think it was November 2013. And the report was pretty long, but what it said was, the target of the report was to banks. This was from the ECB to banks. And the report said, dear banks, Bitcoin is this. Don't open bank accounts denominated in Bitcoin. Be aware that Bitcoin has risks. Your clients will do whatever they will do. Do your own thing, which has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Okay? That's it. 2 months later, January. Oh, and by the way, after that report has been issued, nothing happened. Nothing happened in the banks, nothing happened with the clients, nothing happened ever. That was it. 2 months later, if I'm not mistaken, January or February 2014, the Indian central bank did the same. It issued a report that wasn't copying verbatim that other one, but basically said the same things. The day after this report was issued, all the CEOs of the startups of the Indian Bitcoin scene were arrested. They were taken by police, brought in for questioning,
I didn't know that. That's a news to me. Yeah.
and then after a bit, they were released.
There is a vibrant Bitcoin group here in Bangalore.
I would say that the Indian government's approach to finance is +2 because the attitude towards bank law, towards regulation is very, very specific. Both at the high level and both at the low level. And both the attitude towards different beneficiation of access to financial services or the distributional aspects of it are how it is done. But I think what's not understood is that cryptocurrency, or even any private currency, right, it is something which people take part in for the last time are not aware of what it is. And it is at its core unattacked forms of relative state. It's like being able to keep an arm militia but keep economic terms. By letting yourself rotate a force of power, in this case is purchasing power or economic fiat, right, to yourself, rather than leave it to the government.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think there's any problem at all for like every other aspect of life.
Perfect. So I noticed, and please confirm if my understanding is correct. Is talk time used as currency? Can I transfer you mobile money? Not M-Pesa, but really, I have an Airtel SIM card. And can I pay you with Airtel talk time, for example, if I want to? No? Okay.
Not that
I think there is an option to transfer money. The Airtel, like.
Transfer money.
No. I mean, mobile, you can transfer some.
Okay. And how are Indian banks in terms of mobile banking? Do they have apps that people can use and people use them and they are good? Okay. This is +2. Very good.
So, you don't mention about the taxation problem and like the complexity of the taxation in India. Does it also fall into the picture now?
It is under finance and taxing for
That's
sure.
like probably one of the most complex systems, and there has been proposals to simplify it.
Okay.
Fine it further.
Okay. Well, I think we can leave +2.
The positive point I would add is microfinance. So the government
Microfinance has been a huge innovation. Both Bangladesh and India, with Yunus, has been spearheading microfinance. Absolutely.
I hope some government guy was here.
Security. Security, not in terms of whether police works or doesn't work, or military work or don't work. Security in terms of how does the government's intentions of policy influence security in the daily lives of people through technology. So, for example, neighborhood watching or increasing security through better monitoring, or increasing accountability through open data, and we will talk about it when we talk about policy as well. One of the famous examples here is Chicago crime map. When Google Maps didn't have an API, somebody hacked the Google Maps scheme and cross-referenced it with the police report of crime in Chicago, to show which neighborhoods were better to buy a house and which were worse to buy a house, things like that in real time. So you could see day by day which crimes were committed where. So what is your view? What is the government thinking or doing about security through technology?
I have an example. I don't
Yeah.
know whether I can generalize on this.
Yeah.
This is an account I
Well, this is anecdotal, non-scientific, so that's what we do. We generalize from examples.
So yesterday I attended a talk where this person mentioned that he was able to create an AI system which could predict after the Bombay blast that what are the potential areas blast could happen again. And the Bombay police or other police he showed it to were not concerned at all. They were not interested in that technology. So,
I would like to add some points. Because my many colleagues and their relatives working in security forces like BSF or the paramilitary armies like that. Some people saying that in case for Kashmir, the terrorism coming into India, there is some loophole in their Indian securities. Because, for example, even in water security forces, in some people continuously having their staying there for last 2 years, they not get any type of holidays. If government they are asking their senior officers regarding if they want to go to home for few days, government not give them the holidays. So basically, they are doing one part that from Pakistan areas, they are taking some rights and they are telling that oh, okay, you go and come within the 5 or 6 hours. By that time, they already made some arrangements. These things are because there is some loopholes in the defense sector also. Because there is a security concern unless government has to react with India's fact that because people are already continuously working without their food, without not having proper supplies of water, and the extremities are there. Yeah. So another government put much more concern on the particular soldiers. For them, we are continuously sleeping at the night in peaceful, right? So if government are not taking action against these soldiers, then these things will some loopholes continuously they are going to happen. Because whatever government is doing for us, let them pass them. Then some terrorists can come to the India that they can put some bomb in it. Yeah.
Was there any reaction or debate when metal detectors were starting to be put everywhere at the entrance of malls, at the entrance of hotels? Nobody said anything.
A lot of times, I mean, my perception is that people don't take them seriously unless they're in airports, not in railway station malls.
Recently, people put up a lot of opposition with Delhi CM, famous one, Kejriwal said that we are going to install CCTV cameras at every point in Delhi. So people were like, I mean, he did not calculate how much cost will go into it, but he says, I'll put CCTV cameras every part of Delhi. There was some kind of opposition.
Mm-hmm.
That's one.
I think in terms of technology, it's hard to say. Ground level is different. Like, if you look in the last 5 years, how much more difficult it has been to get a SIM card now in India. It's getting more and more difficult.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do it legally here. Whereas 5 years ago I could, and I had a SIM card which will allow me to put credit onto anybody's phone. Mm-hmm. So 5-6 years ago, I had that ability to do that with whatever money I wanted to. Now today I can't.
Yeah.
So that's more of a ground level thing. The reason they gave me is that it's because they need to track every SIM card because they could be used in bombs. That's it. That's the reason behind it. So while that's not technology advancing, it's trying to stop the technology from doing something like that.
Those kind of strict measures are there.
So these things has to be implemented after the proper scenario has been implemented.
Yeah.
All over the India. Unless there is some security lag is there, you cannot put like as an example, you cannot transfer the amount to the another account. At least they have some security level to the from this card level to make it high.
No, but I mean, by your security also will translate to individual security of people, right? I mean,
yes.
Like women's security and so on. which I don't think I need to elaborate.
Well, they shut down Uber though, right? That was one thing that they did that advanced that in Delhi,
Well,
didn't it?
there is Uber here in Bangalore.
Yes, but the reason why they gave for shutting Uber down in Delhi, forget the lobbying of all the taxi drivers, some of that, right? But the reason why they said they shut it down was for safety because security checks weren't good enough. But okay, look at when Obama came. What happened with security there? Was there anything high tech? No. They just shut everything down and got every person out. It's all hands on ground, right? Word of mouth security is still the best thing that happens.
So I will put a 0
Yeah, I
basically.
think it's 0.
Yeah.
And you know what, like if you talk about technological interventions to improve security, I don't think that's probably, you know, like, I mean, we should start from much before that, like improving the infrastructure and, you know, like for example, if there are more street lights in especially suburbans and things like that. So they are technology, but not the way we are talking about technology, right?
Yeah.
They are like very primitive. I would say it's +1 because I have seen. I've been to the US. I've been to Australia. I think you will know that. I've seen that on the Western countries they have very secure gate, electronic systems, CCTV cameras in almost all the homes. But you will not find those CCTV cameras and the electronic systems in Indian homes. But if you go to multinational companies, then every multinational company, you won't believe that you have to swipe, and it's like very hectic. Like every time you take your bag, you have to swipe with your card, and every time they do it. So it's like in a day there will be 20 times checked, and this is more strict in some of the companies. Like if there is a startup, it will be less hectic, but in these multinational companies, it's like.
But that's basically data security and like those kind of security, not like your security.
No, it's related to the individual security. Like if you carry a bomb in a company, then it's the security of the entire stuff, right?
How many, for example, like in Bangalore and Noida and Gurgaon only, right?
Everywhere,
the companies.
Right. I mean, these big companies are in few places.
That's private again, it's not public.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So last one is policy. So how does the government, what are the intentions of government in terms of reforming its policy-making processes? Is there any open data initiative where in an unfettered, unlicensed manner, people can hold government accountable, where the transparency of operations is provable, and is a more, as it is called these days, liquid form of democracy encouraged, rather than a top-down democracy where delegation of representation is the older form of decision making. So what about this? And of course here, once again, I'm not talking about the fact there's a lot of corruption. That is the baseline. Okay, so the baseline is yes, there's a lot of corruption, but for example, the latest government, if I'm not mistaken, came in as a popular response, as a popular frustration, riding a wave of frustration. This latest political party swept in power. And now it is up to them to prove that they can be different, right? Are they? The question is about intentions. So the intentions certainly are that they want to be different. But let's try and move here a little bit further. Are they showing themselves to be different, or it has been just talk?
I am more positive than my previous answer, because there have been certain initiatives like this. Like for example, there's this I don't remember the name exactly, but there is a portal in which people can MyGo.in, yeah. So portals like wherein people can actually do something like a collaborative policy making of sorts. So, and which has also been popularized. It's not just it's not just the service thing. And I mean, so for example, since this is not pertaining, this second point is not actually about the present government, but since a few years back we had this RTI reforms wherein people can file queries and get the get anything, any data and information related to government organizations, institutes.
Okay.
And that has been used to like really interesting cases. I'm not sure. I mean, there had been cases of lot of curbing, even murders and exploitation and suppression of RTI activists, which has been decreasing so far since years. So this has been probably a pretty interesting.
Okay, so at least +1.
Yeah, +1.
Okay. Anybody against +1? Okay. Okay. So with that, we ended our exercise, and I will just summarize: energy +1, manufacturing 0, food -2, health +1, learning +1, finance +2, security 0, policy +1. About the intentions of policies of Indian government. And with that, I will stop my broadcast. And okay.